Hey, this is Ralph Garman, and you are listening to the movie Madhouse. What are you thinking? You know how many options there are on the internet, and you're wasting your time at the movie Madhouse? Don't tell these guys, but seriously, examine your life.
And welcome to the movie Madhouse. I'm Rob.
I'm James.
I'm examining my life. Adrian is my name.
Right. Welcome to the show, Adrian. How you doing?
I'm awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Fun to be here.
Oh man, it's a blast having you. Oh wait,
Someone's here. Mr. Clam Chowder himself.
look at
Hi.
you. Jason, do you remember Adrian?
Yes. Been a while, but yes.
How's it going, man?
So I got a belly full of seafood. I'm good.
What a guy. What a guy.
Yeah,
All right.
brag. I know. I'm sorry.
Well, we are here to talk about all things Top Gun.
Oh, that movie was so damn good.
I was telling these guys just before we went on the air. I put it off to the last minute. I watched it yesterday for the first time.
Okay.
It's a little indie movie, hard to find. That's the problem.
That's what it was. I had to go to this little film house back in the corner in an alley, and it's like $400 because it was a black market ticket.
Yeah, we do some unholy things to get in.
Oh yes,
You talk about Fringe.
very Fringe. Yes, it was Fringe of the Fringe. There we go. But yeah, I have heard nothing but good things about this film, and I understand why now. Like, even when Adrian, when you and I were talking previously, and I mentioned this show, it's like, ooh, I need to talk about that.
Yeah, well, I guess, and this will probably come up later, but I mostly glowing things to say about the film. Obviously, is ridiculously entertaining, and just especially for someone who saw the original movie in the theaters back in the day, a great callback to all that stuff. But I do have some, problems with it. we'll get to that
Really?
later.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is gonna be good.
Yeah.
Well, where would we like to start? Maybe we'll start at the beginning, because that opening, when the stars start to go around the mountain and you hear that boom boom, that
They pretty much mirrored the original opening.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and it's like, bam! I'm 30 years ago in a theater.
Yep.
That was awesome.
They had to. They had to. Hey, remember this?
Yeah, but it only took like 2 seconds, and yeah, boom, boom, and then Kenny Loggins kicks in, and it's like, yeah, Top Gun is a major movie. Kate Hill is #1 on the charts. It's like it's the 80s all over again.
Actually, no, we should back up though, because what did you guys think of the whole thing of Tom Cruise introducing the movie?
That was interesting.
I liked it. I liked that he really had a big personal stake in the production of this film.
He introduced
I
it?
think you would probably call it a passion project.
Interesting. Well, they're doing that a lot more these days because they were thanking the audience for coming back to the theater.
And that's what it was, because he was going, thank you for coming to see it at this theater,
Yeah. It's kind of funny when you see a multi-millionaire, probably like multi-hundred millionaire, saying, hey, thanks for checking it out, in a kind of genuine way that an indie filmmaker would say, like, guys, thanks for coming and checking out my movie. But it actually felt like he meant it. Like there was a genuine vibe, which is kind of cool.
That's what I got from it. Yeah, like Jay said, like this was really something he felt really hard about and wanted to make sure people knew.
Well, just look what they did to film it, like with the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they paid to do the dogfight scenes. Like they really put the effort into giving a genuine experience.
And those shots were so good.
Yeah.
Is anyone here a film camera nerd at all? Like, did you guys see the arrays that they built for the planes that the actors had to operate themselves?
I was wondering. I don't know what they used, but I know
It was
it's
just
not
they,
a regular
yeah,
GoPro.
they built an entire rig for that thing.
iPhone 6.
Yeah, and the camera,
No.
the actors had to bring their own iPhones. It's like you use it yourself, you know. No, they
Make
built
sure you've got your cloud updated.
Yeah, we're backing you up from the plane. But yeah, they had this whole array. But the actors had to basically learn how to camera operate themselves, and they were responsible for starting and stopping filming for each take. And there's a story that Miles Teller tells in one interview where he talks about, they went up and they did this entire flight sequence, and of course, every time they go up on this, it's hugely expensive. And he said, you do that thing where you start, stop, and you can't remember which one you did. You're not thinking, and then he actually accidentally didn't get the take. So they went up to this whole sequence. Miles Teller lands the plane and he stops it and it goes and it starts recording. You know that horrible moment? And he's like, "Oh shit, I didn't get the take."
Oh man, that's gut wrenching. I've actually done that on set, so I can't imagine being in a plane, millions of dollars at stake.
That feeling you've got is Tom Cruise's foot up your ass at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. These are takes you don't want to blow because they can't fix this in post.
No, but man, it made that film so much better with those takes, like with those camera angles where you see everything behind them. You know,
It made me like I saw it in the Ultra AVX, and because it felt so like I felt like I was in it, like I was holding my breath when they were, kind of thing. Like I was really starting to feel it.
Yeah, you could really see the actors struggling through the G's, like struggling to maintain consciousness through some of those maneuvers.
now what was your thought? And we'll ask Adrian, being the consummate professional in this area. What did you think of the score?
I thought it was great. I mean, it's a little confusing, and I think it's probably it's a combination of things, and part of that is my opinion. So, I mean, obviously, it's a pandemic project, so they had to work with people from sort of like all around the globe. So, it's essentially Faltermeyer's main theme from the original '86, which they use to really great effect, I think, and that's just one of those iconic, incredible, soundtracks and main themes from a movie, and they work it in. They sort of use dun dun dun, that theme sort of comes up a lot, and they sort of use and integrate it really nicely throughout the score. And then of course there's those really choice moments where they just play the whole thing and get the guitar back, and it's just so juicy. But the score lists Harold Faltermeyer was the original composer, Hans Zimmer, Lady Gaga, and then is produced by Lauren Balfe, who, if you don't know, has been, worked on all these Mission Impossible movies recently. He's done a ton of stuff. He's from Hans Zimmer's camp. So, I mean, Zimmer's sort of been involving a lot of like what you would normally consider like songwriters and recording artists in his work. And I think partly it's, I think he's trying to expand his horizons and get interesting people in with interesting ideas. But I also think it's a really smart marketing idea, because if you want your soundtrack to sell, just tell them that Lady Gaga worked on every single part of the movie soundtrack, and you're going to get people to listen to it. It's a pretty smart move from that side, I think. But to be less glib about it, it's Lauren Balfe really had the job of trying to connect all these tissues, right? To sort of take Zimmer's ideas and then write some stuff himself, I'm pretty sure. Take Faltermeyer's original music and themes, and then work in the songs that Gaga had written as well. So I don't know how much is her actually like scoring to picture, like technically. That's a whole game on its own, and I'm not sure she necessarily was doing that stuff, but certainly, contributing musical ideas and stuff like that. And Zimmer's got a really interesting way of working. But overall, when I listened back to the score again, it brought all the moments back, which is sort of like, for me, that's the sort of litmus test of like, did I feel it in the theater? Do I remember what in the music? Like that Dark Star cue, it was so good. I mean, in that beginning when he's flying that experimental plane. And the interesting thing about that actually is that they originally thought, let's do it as an action sequence. But McQuarrie and Cruise and a bunch of the other sort of higher ups were like, no, this is a fun sequence. This is about, Maverick having a really great time pushing this plane to its limits. It's not action. It's about fun. And you hear that in the score. It's got an action edge, but it's mostly just about this like really fun moment.
And it still shows his willingness to, bypass orders, you know, not just ignore them, or not not to disobey them, but just to bypass and alter, which I thought was brilliant to show that he's still the same Pete Mitchell he was
Yeah.
from, it was 86, I think, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that whole opening was awesome.
And they onboard you with the character's motivation, right? Like you don't feel like he's an asshole and is like purposely screwing people over. He's just got this obsession and drive to push himself to that level.
Wants to go fast.
Yes, exactly.
Like Jason is doing in his car right now.
Yes.
70? Is 70 fast?
MP,
Come on.
if you're talking miles, yes.
Come on, hit the afterburners. Let's go.
So if you have to look at the whole thing, what was one iconic moment in this film for you? Because I'll start, and it's a tagline I want to get on a shirt now. That's a kill.
Nah.
Because you hear that so much during that opening montage when he's back at Top Gun. That's a kill. That's a kill. That's a kill. What were some of the things that jumped out for you guys? James, we'll go with you.
Reuniting with Iceman.
Yeah. They did him so well in this film.
Yeah.
That
was
a truly beautiful send-off for Kilmer, first of all.
Yeah.
This is probably the last time we'll see him on film. But that whole scene was just such a really beautifully, dramatically performed scene. Like some of the best genuinely dramatic acting I've seen out of Cruise in particular in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like they were connecting as actors. Like I felt that whole scene wasn't really them as characters anymore, and that was more like them connecting as people who respected each other as colleagues who'd gone through this whole thing. I mean, I don't know if you watched Val Kilmer's documentary about his whole life. It's absolutely incredible, and you just can't help but fall in love with this guy. He's just a beautiful human being. But that line at the end of it, when he says, "I just have one last question for you. Who's the better pilot?" and Tom. It was a beautiful moment. Don't ruin it. I mean, that was so good. I was just like laughing. I was laughing through the tears at that moment. It was so good.
This script did have that right touch of humor at the right moments,
Yeah.
which I thought was neat. One of the trivia bits, Val Kilmer told Entertainment Weekly that it was like no time had passed when he was on set with Tom Cruise again. And it was fun too. We blew through a lot of takes laughing so much, the 62-year-old stated. It was really fun and special. And yeah, I love how they incorporated his own personal disability with voice and all that right into the script.
Yeah.
It was.
I wonder if we'll see him again. I feel like he was looking good there. I mean, he's been through rough patches, but we'll see. I mean, I feel like I'm not counting Val Kilmer out yet.
He does the occasional movie, and they usually dub his voice.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. And I think they dub it in here as well.
No,
Nope.
they recreated it with AI.
Oh, okay. Because
Really?
that's what I was wondering. It sounded like him.
But it sounded like his raspy, like his not his robot voice, but it sounded like
if you hear his voice
Yeah,
it's
like
a
it's
Daffy
harsh.
Duck kind of voice.
Yeah.
right.
And they're doing that a lot. Like they did James Earl Jones. They de-aged his voice for Obi-Wan Kenobi, like the series.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And I didn't even realize it was a thing until someone pointed out to me. If you watch Lion King and listen to Simba, and then watch the live action and listen to Simba, you can hear the age of James Earl Jones in that voice. And I never noticed it until someone pointed it out to me.
Well, you should. It's like a 25-year gap.
Well, watch the opening scene of Star Wars and then watch Rogue One.
Yeah, the voice is a little different there too.
Yeah, they definitely didn't de-age his voice in Rogue One.
No. But they did with Obi-Wan. I remember them talking about that.
Yeah, I heard about that.
All right. Jason, what's your key moment that jumps out?
Honestly, I always just go back to that scene with Iceman. Like that is the perfect moment in that film. But you're right. Getting assured that's a kill. That whole montage, it was a lot of fun. I think after Maverick has been shot down and then Rooster shows up, he's like, "What are you doing here?" Like,
oh my god!
That's where the movie kind of takes on the silly shenanigans,
Yeah.
But it's when they meet back up again,
Yeah.
You told
they're
me not
so
to
mad at
follow
each other,
him.
but
He's
they're
just
so
like,
glad to see each other.
Yeah, shows him down. What were you thinking? You told me not to think. Oh, yeah.
hands are up.
Classic 80s lines, right? Just like, yeah.
But they were calling back to their own lines from earlier. Like it just kept coming back around.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. All right, Adrian, what one jumped out at you?
I mean, geez, like I think we've covered it. Again, I have to say, like that thing with Val Kilmer really just hit for me. I mean, for a kid who watched this in '86 and was like instantly like everything is about F-14 Tomcats now. All I want to do is fly planes. It was just so cool to see that come back and be. I have to tell you, like honestly, I was going into this with a little bit of trepidation, going, I'm going to be like, a grumpy old. Kind of guy who's seen what the world is about, and this is a war movie, and I mean like fuck war movies, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, no, I was like in it from the beginning. I'm just like, no, this is so cool. I mean, yeah, when they get the Tomcat back, that was pretty cool for me because that's like, not only is that the original, that's also like every single like Gundam movie and like anime that I used to watch as a kid too, right? Like they're all based on those F-14s. But I mean, all the flying sequences were so cool because of like what I remembered being so cool about that movie, except now it's amped up. So, sometimes you have these like nostalgic moments in movies and you're like, like when you grow up and you go to a house that you used to know and you're like, oh, it seems so small now because you're grown up and bigger. Like you'd expect that with the movie too. Like I'm not going to appreciate it as much. And I think because he took it to that level and they were flying those planes for real. I mean, they were not flying. Okay. They're in the back seat with real pilots, like real Top Gun pilots piloting, but you feel them do it in that great takeoff scene where he's taking off from the aircraft character and you see like just the incredible power of that plane. And then the great climb out of that crater, once they've done their bomb run and this is it, like they have to pull out and then they're going to be in a dogfight after this, but just get through that climb and to see what that physically does to the human body and to just feel like the tension of an action thriller movie where you go, this is actually real. Like this is the legit thing. Like I'm sure they passed out. Like I'm sure that like the rest of the crew probably passed out a couple of times trying to maneuver that thing. I don't know if they went up right to whatever G's they were pulling there in the movie, but pretty damn close. You just see the whole face.
Exactly.
So for me, I mean, that's all the fighting sequences. Oh, of course, that crazy maneuver the enemy pilot pulls where he just like does that flipping and then goes right past Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruise is like, what the fuck? Like that for me was the big standout maneuver, right? Like Tom Cruise's maneuver, like doing the force the upside down, the inverted move, they're doing these callbacks, but that weird twist, whatever.
That crazy maneuver was like this generation's I'm gonna hit the brakes, it's gonna fly right by.
Yeah.
It was the new generation version of that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
How do you one up that? I'm always wondering about Cruise. Like, what are you going to do now? How are you going to one up this? You literally have to kill yourself for the next one. What the hell?
Well, there was 2 plot points that I really enjoyed in this film. The first one is Penny.
Yes.
They brought in somebody because remember there's 35-ish years in between the first and second. So of course there's going to be history with other people. And I like the fact they didn't even try to explain it. This was someone he went out with and boom. And they never mentioned Kelly McGillis.
Yeah.
I remember that for decade, like maybe almost 20 years, you think go through how many times have you seen Top Gun? Tons. And it's blah, 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 blah. And said like these flybys and one admiral's daughter. And if you're not listening closely, Anthony Edwards just turns to me and goes, and he's just he says Penny Benjamin. Oh, and that's it. Just like when you find it years later, it's like Penny Benjamin. What the hell is Penny Benjamin? Then you start watching the movie over again. I'm like, oh, it's the Admiral's daughter.
Yep.
Yeah, I had to look that up. I didn't realize that was actually a direct callback to one piece of dialogue. But that just
from like early in the first movie,
the greatness.
And then the second part of it was because it's a Tom Cruise movie. He's going to end up flying the mission, right? And you're thinking, okay, how is this? And I respect to everybody in the room. How is this old man going to end up in that pilot seat? At the end of the film and not be, oh my God, he just sold us out. Yeah. And I love what they did, where Iceman passes and the guy kicks him out, so he has to prove himself. Yep. And I thought that was brilliant script writing right there.
I thought the love story was really great, and it felt like it had its place in the movie. It gave a nice sort of like contour to the whole thing, so it wasn't just about like all these dudes like flying planes, and also just some of the casting too. They have some women pilots in there was pretty great because they had a nice flavor to it. But like Jennifer Connelly, I mean, she's amazing and also just so like absolutely gorgeous and stunning. And I felt like their whole relationship it was nicely earned. It didn't go too far. It was just like a really nice tenor to the whole thing, and just nice to see an adult relationship where they're like, she has a kid. There's no messing around. There is a bit of messing around, but it's like it's all kind of the way you'd want it to happen. And it was felt like, I don't know, it just felt nice. It felt even, and it felt really satisfying. The whole thing just really landed well.
And with that relationship too, they played it very smart. Like, they wanted to give you humor when humor was warranted, but if not, you knew it. When he jumps out of that window and he lands and he looks up and there's the daughter and everyone just started cracking up.
Yeah.
And then she just glares at him and says, "Don't break her heart again." And then the whole theater just went silent.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, these are like bang, bang, bang. The points are hitting so hard. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. One of the big issues I had, and maybe we can get into some of Adrian's, issues with the film. The one that I had that really bugged me is, why do Rooster and Maverick not need a backseat driver, but the other three pilots do?
Right. That's interesting. I never thought of that. Because I mean, you would have to. Like, are you sure they didn't have it? And
I'm sure they all do.
Who was Maverick's guy?
Well, yeah, that's true. But hold on a second, because like Manny Jacinto's in this movie, but he's not in this movie. So did they just cut every single, like, I think I saw him for like a half a second. I saw his name after. I was like, what a waste. I mean, he's such a good actor. Where were his parts? So maybe he was a backside driver and they just cut everything because of,
yeah.
I don't know why.
Because they had Phoenix and Bob, they had Payback and Fanboy, but Rooster had nobody, and neither did Maverick.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's been a month or so since I watched it.
And it's like, why? Didn't bother me all that much because I was enjoying the film. But
it obviously didn't bother me since I didn't even notice.
Yep. So what did you notice, Adrian?
Well, apart from Manny Jacinto's noticeable absence. Okay, so this is the weird thing that I know, and it only occurred to me after we were driving home from the movie theater. And there was something about, I don't know, I think it was because I was thinking about myself going into this movie and what my expectations would be, right? So like going back and thinking like when I was, I can't remember how old I was, like 10, something like that, when I first watched the movie in theaters. And of course you don't have any understanding of like, the military industrial complex and all the like problematic parts of like a war movie like that, and how much money is being funneled in to make a movie like that, and how much money was being funneled into Hollywood to make those movies to make the army look good. And I was thinking about that just sort of in passing, going, man, I just enjoyed this movie so completely without guilt. But then there was something in the back of my mind that was bugging me, and I was like, I don't know what it is. I'm not sure, like, why am I feeling like this? And it occurred to me that, like in the original movie, it's the Russians, the bad guys, and of course that sort of sums up the geopolitical situation at the time. But you hear the Russians chatter back and forth, and you get some sense of who they are. You understand the geography. They have a context within, a larger conversation about what the world's about. It's problematic, but at least you have that much. In this case, we were never told what country we're dealing with. The country is completely, I don't know. It's just like, it's nondescript, right? It could be almost anywhere. It's sort of like all really is they have to take an aircraft carrier to get there, and then they fly out. And I mean, most of the actual aerial stuff is shot in like Colorado or something. So they have these sort of mountainous regions with some like little bits of pine on some rocky stuff. So it could be Afghanistan. It could be somewhere in the Middle East. It could be anything. And then the pilots, like, when you're looking at the actual pilots, they don't have faces. Like, no pilot has a face. They just have a big black screen. They look like TIE fighters. And they don't ever, not once did they have any dialogue. They're not speaking in any language. They're mute and they're faceless. And then even when they crash land and they have to go onto the military airfield to commandeer the F-14, you see people in the distance. You see like legs running around. Like, there's no evidence of actual human beings that you can identify with. There's no language. There's no faces. There's no reactions to somebody showing up all of a sudden. And I was like, oh, I think I know why they did this. I feel like they were like trying to be really PC and go, let's not point the finger at anyone in particular. But by doing that, they've done a far worse thing, which basically to me says any enemy or anyone who disagrees with something the state does is dehumanized completely, right? You're no longer a human being. You're just an enemy combatant. You are no longer, you just don't have any substance or human character, which I thought was really disturbing. And I don't think that was the intention, but that's what it came off for me as. And it's really problematic because it's like, well, you were bombing an airbase because they're about to weaponize uranium. It's like, well, what about the states having bombs and like nuclear warheads? Like, you can play it your way, but not if somebody else does it, you don't like it. And just this dehumanization of an enemy, which that was disturbing to me.
I don't think their intention was it for it to be in that direction that everybody's the enemy. I think their point was to not single one enemy out so that they don't alienate a demographic or a market for the film.
Yeah.
So they'll just blanket. We'll just hide. We won't give a descriptive enemy. We'll hide any detail. But you can look at it that way, that now everybody's an enemy.
Well, they could have
anyone that disagrees. It's like, yeah.
They could have tried to pull what the makers of the Red Dawn remake did, where throughout the production of the movie, the bad guys were Chinese. Then they realized, oh, okay, we're invested a lot in the Chinese industry, so we don't want to piss them off. Yeah. It's North Koreans. They're not going to watch this, and everyone hates them.
Yep. Well, see, in '86 though, you can get away with throwing Russians in there because
Well, yeah, like I don't recall ever hearing any chatter in the movie, but it was implied there was the Russians because it was a MiG. They pick a fictional
Russian MiGs.
They pick a fictional model that doesn't exist, but it's still like the MiGs were the Russian planes.
Well, the way that weapons are traded, though, and like the U.S. funding of Afghanistan, I mean, you're getting Russian stuff, you're getting U.S. stuff. I mean, the provenance of any weapon is not necessarily an indication of what political or what nationality anything is, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because weapons sales happen all the time. So
yeah,
it can be sheer coincidence. Sometimes it's planted that way. Like get into conspiracy theories, all that stuff. Well, you can't take that as face value.
That's how Tony Stark got blown up by his own missile.
Well,
right?
Speaking of which, though, I really like how Marvel creates the like how they created Sokovia, like this a fictional sort of like middle or like Eastern European country that has all the hallmarks of a lot of different places, and they're sort of just peppering it with elements of real places, but not ever saying, oh, this is the one place. So you get an amalgam, and you get like, so for me, that almost feels like, okay, if we're saying anything about that, then it's a historical context. We're saying, here's an invented country with all these attributes that are a sort of mix of all these different things, and here's what we want to say about that. But at least you have that, like, it's an opinion, as opposed to anyone that disagrees, you're no longer you don't have a face anymore.
I think that wouldn't work with Top Gun, only because Top Gun relies on its deep dive into realism.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then if you suddenly throw a fictional country in there, it's like, well, boom, now we're into comic book movies.
For sure. How good is Lewis Pullman? I love him in this movie, and I just love him as an actor. A guy that's coming up more and more. I was trying to remember, like he was in Bad Times at El Royale. That's so good in that. And I thought he was great in this. I'm just like, oh, this guy's going to get a lot of work now. I had
no idea that he's Bill Pullman's son.
It's so weird to see.
Was that Hangman?
Yeah.
No, it was Bob.
Bob. Hangman was it
Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell, yeah, from Expendables 2.
It's so weird to see all these children of the people that I watched.
Yeah,
like I was in season 3 of this recent season of The Boys before I realized Jack Quaid is Dennis and Meg Ryan's kid.
Oh,
really?
Of course.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No, and it was I think
3 seasons.
It was episode 2. He does that smile, and it's like, my God, that looks like that. Wait a minute.
What's his last name again?
Quaid.
I know. That's him.
Yeah, it could have been Randy Quaid's son. Maybe he's Randy Quaid's son. He's like,
but I looked, and no, it's Dennis and Megan.
He doesn't talk to his dad anymore because Randy's gone off the charts again.
Randy, oh my God, that poor guy. I just don't get him.
Nobody does. That's why he gets in the state he is.
But now you were talking about Manny not being in the film. I'm looking. He played Billy Fritz Avalone, and I don't remember Fritz coming up at all.
You see him on an airfield, like on an airstrip after a mission or after a training session, like for half a second, and he doesn't have any. I was always, because I saw his name come up. I'm like, oh, cool. We'll see him actually do like like an action role or a dramatic role, and he just had nothing in it.
I'm trying to remember who the hell that is.
So now this DVD better have a lot of deleted scenes.
Yeah, no doubt. I remember this reminds me of one time at TIFF. I was at the Canadian Film Center barbecue, and of course, like all these actors are there, and everyone's talking and blah blah. There's this and that going on, and there was this one young actress who was very new to the business. I think had been in a few things, but she'd been, and I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to say her name, obviously, but she'd been in something that was really taking off. It was on fire. At the film festival, and she was going around to everyone, and you could tell she was on cloud nine because she was in this movie and it was doing really great, and there was so much talk about it. So she thought, my God, this is my big chance. And somewhere in the midst of that event, she got word that her entire scenes, like everything that she'd done in this movie, had been deleted, or met the cutting room floor. And the next time I saw her, when I was doing the rounds, she was like sitting there with a bunch of friends, completely in tears. I was like, my God, that's just the worst thing that you could like.
Oh, is this a Terrence Malick film?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and abused in all sorts of other ways in addition.
Oh man. I was just looking.
I was supposed to make an Amber Heard Aquaman 2 joke, but it didn't quite.
I was just checking, and it said, according to Miles Teller, 3 of the 6 new actors threw up every day of filming in the jets.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. I don't doubt it. I don't. And that Tom Cruise personally designed a 3-month aviation training course for the new actors to become ready to handle riding in an F-18.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Well, they have those suits, right? Like flight suits are designed so that like when you're taking G's, it actually fills with air from your feet up, and it pressurizes and compresses your legs all the way up to your upper body, so that it keeps the blood from pooling into your legs to try and keep it into your brain. That's part of why flight suits exist. It's just like to put the human body through what those pilots are doing is just insane.
But there were so many cool little callbacks, like when they were doing the little montage of what happened to Goose and, things like that. They kept doing the callbacks. But my favorite is when Rooster and Mav are doing the flight and that thing is following them. And he even says, come on, Mav, do some of that pilot shit.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, that's Goose right there.
Yeah. I really liked how they kind of flipped the script with the actual characters, like all the pilots in Top Gun. And because it made like perfectly logical sense. They come in there, and especially Hangman, he comes in there, and there's your big brave macho douchebag, right? but he's not. And then you realize, oh yeah, these are all the top pilots. Like they've already had their hierarchy. They're already Top Gun. This is the best of the best of the best.
Yep.
So it changes the demographic entirely.
And that's why that opening, that's a kill. That's why it was so good, because you literally watch them demoralize, from on their little silver saddle to crap, we're getting our butts handed to us,
Yep.
This movie, it felt like the perfect journey movie. It delivered to the audience exactly what you knew you were getting as soon as you sat down, and you weren't disappointed when you left.
Yeah.
Oscar winner, I doubt it, but it was still like, I want to see it again.
I remember reading one joke that said the most unrealistic thing they thought about the movie was that all those young people would know all the words to Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That was a pretty great. I think that's Miles Teller doing that for real too, right? I don't know if he did it on the day, but that's certainly him singing and playing the piano.
I believe it was.
Yeah.
I believe it was.
He's a triple threat.
And it's interesting. Tom Cruise is now older than Tom Skerritt was when he played Viper in the original. Skerritt was 53 and Tom Cruise is 56.
Is Skerritt still around?
To my knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's still alive. I haven't
Oh,
seen him, I think, since Ted or Ted 2. I think
I think it was Ted.
Yeah, sorry. He was 56 when it was filmed and 59 when it released. But dang, Tom Cruise is almost 60.
Yep.
Oh my God. What was that one? There was a meme a few years ago with him. He was in The Firm. And what's the name of the actor? The
Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley, where they did a comparison of like what Wilford Brimley looked like at the age that Tom Cruise was when he did like the Mission Impossible thing. And he looked like, it's just crazy. Like,
He was born with a mustache. I don't know. That guy.
yeah, born just eating oatmeal, like exterior ribs. Remember that commercial?
Yep. Quaker Oats, and diabetes medication.
Diabetes.
The diabetes.
Yeah.
Where did I just read this here? And apparently Anthony Edwards gave the movie 2 thumbs up.
Wow.
Tom Cruise screened the film for him in person.
Well, Miles Teller looked like a direct carbon copy of Anthony Edwards' Goose. So, like, perfect casting.
And apparently they were allowed to pick their own call signs. And Miles Teller picked Rooster because it's the same family as Goose.
It made sense. It works.
Well, I mean, that would be a weird bird that comes out of a goose that's a rooster. I mean, you got to think about what happened there. The genetics don't quite make sense.
Yeah.
Well, Gosling just doesn't quite have the right ring to it.
No. Well,
he could have went Canadian and called himself Cobra Chicken.
Oh, there we go.
Love it.
I do like that. I'm scanning through some of the trivia here because like right now I looked up Box Office Mojo and it's number 16
of all time.
Yep, 1.3 billion.
I know it's still climbing.
Can you imagine being part of anything that's worth that much money? That's just like, you ever seen those things where they tell you like if you had this much money, this is how long it would take you to get that money if you made X amount of money every day. And it's like to get into the billions, it's like you're making millions of dollars every single day for several decades. Mm-hmm. It's just preposterous.
But yeah, these films, they either just skyrocket up this list or they hit around the $400 million mark. You know, the gray area is not there anymore.
No.
Yeah, they're saying. I was going to say they're skeptical that Thor: Love and Thunder can break the $1 billion mark, which is surprising because how popular Thor is with all the Avengers and stuff.
That's true, but that movie has issues that I think are going to severely hinder its performance.
No, that's a good point. But Thor Ragnarok, being so beloved, also didn't break $1 billion.
All right.
Yeah, that's true too. Thor Ragnarok made 153 million or 853 million.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it didn't break.
I mean, it got close. But it was already after.
What a failure!
Right? God, they should hang their heads. Thor: Love and Thunder is at 662 million right now. Dude, what are you building over there? Holy snap!
Of course, a bunch of them have been.
Sorry, I have case off because my phone's going to overheat.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. But yeah, like, what does it say? 3.
So here's the question: what is Tom Cruise going to have to do next in order to one up every single thing that he's done? He's hung off the edge of the outside of a plane to hang off. He's done his own stunts, jumping across buildings, breaking his own damn ankle doing it. He's he's flown real F-18s under genuine flying conditions. Like, what's next? What is he going to do?
I want to say I heard about something he was doing in one of the next 2 Mission Impossible movies, but I've long since forgotten.
It's a remake of Lost in Space, and he's really going to pilot the spaceship.
Right. He's going to go to space.
Yeah, that's it.
Real space.
And then he will build a colony on the moon by himself.
And fight an actual alien.
Yes.
Yeah. They're still trying to catch the alien.
Apollo 13. It's a remake of Apollo 13. He's playing all 3 astronauts.
Right.
All 3 of them at once. Like he's a lot of prosthetics, a little bit of digital, but he's playing all 3 of the astronauts aboard Apollo 13. And he's playing the role Gary Sinise had in the original as well.
I might want to watch that.
If he can get it done, I would say he's probably too old to get it done within a reasonable time frame, but I would not be surprised if Tom Cruise made a movie and actually did go to the moon. That would not surprise me.
They've almost done that, like with him and his weightless planes. Like they're knocking on space's door, literally. You know. That's got to be the next step. Oh, what was that, Jason?
The Vomit Comet,
Yep.
the zero G plane.
Exactly. I mean, there's not much more they can do.
No.
So, sorry, go ahead.
It's going to be a race as to who gets to the moon first. Although at this point, Vin Diesel has the lead, I believe, because in Fast 9, don't they hit orbit with that rocket-powered Fiero? I saw it in the trailer. I haven't watched the film, but I think Vin Diesel and Tom Cruise are in a race. Who's getting to the moon first?
Yep. Optimus Prime is up there waiting. Or no, not Optimus Prime. What the heck was his name? Leonard Nimoy played him.
Oh, Megatron.
Sentinel Prime.
Or Sentinel Prime. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, that's right. He did Megatron's voice, didn't he? Or did he do Sentinel Prime?
He did Sentinel Prime.
No, he was Sentinel Prime. No, Hugo Weaving was Megatron.
That's right. There we go.
And then later they got the original, can't remember his name, the original cartoon voice of Megatron.
Megatron guy. That's what we'll call him.
Galvatron, who's really Megatron.
Just like in the cartoons.
I'll be impressed if they ever do give us the live action CGI spectacle Transformers of the animated film with Unicron, and they bring back Orson Welles' voice.
Oh wow! With the AI stuff, they'll totally do that. They'll bring back Orson Welles.
Exactly. So, yeah, I guess we kind of hit our stride on Maverick. But that, like I said, it's a fun movie because you know what you're getting when you go into, so you're not disappointed. Not like a lot of the other films where it's like, oh, they tried too hard, you know.
Yeah, it fires on all cylinders. That's the wrong. Well, I guess if it's the plane that you're flying at the end, it still have cylinders. But other than that,
I'll stand by it. It is one of the best sequel films ever made, and quite honestly, it's a great standalone film as well. You don't have to have seen the original film to understand and enjoy this movie. You'll appreciate the nostalgia and the callbacks and so on. Yes, but absolutely not necessary to fully enjoy this film.
Yeah, I'd say as a pure action movie, one of the best I think ever made.
Okay. There's one bit of trivia about your Faceless Nation thing here.
All right, let's do it.
The targeted country is never identified by name other than as a rogue nation. The markings on one of the aggressor aircraft, a red star within a colored circle, is the same marking used by the MiG-28s in Top Gun and represents North Korea. The fifth-generation fighters they face in are Su-57s, NATO call sign Felon. Just over a dozen have been made up to 2022, and its only operator is Russia. And lastly, the aggressor possesses F-14 Tomcats. Only two nations ever used the Tomcat, the United States and Iran. The last U.S. Tomcat was retired in September of 2006. 11 are in desert storage in Arizona. All remaining Tomcats not on display have been scrapped to prevent their components from being sold to Iran, whom still uses them in 2022.
Nice.
Well, if they can still get some parts. As we can see, they're a tough machine. They can still fly.
It's the Toyota Camry of the skies.
And you are 100% right, Adrian. At the insistence of Miles Teller, he learned how to play Great Balls of Fire on the piano himself without a double.
Nice.
He studied music when he was younger and still dabbles in it.
Yeah. I think he played, I mean, really, when you look at like Whiplash, he's playing a lot of those parts. And I mean, that's got to be the most difficult instrument for someone who's not studied and not even studied, but like really you have to 10 years of persistent work on the drums. That's going to be super tough. So yeah, he's a real trooper. And I mean, yeah, we haven't talked about some of the homoerotic overtones of that beach volleyball tournament there that they put on with their shirtless. I think that's when I went to the bathroom. I think I saw that coming. Not that I didn't enjoy seeing all these ripped dudes with their shirts off, but I was just like, there's no story. They're not going to be pushing the story forward here.
Oh, hang on, Jason.
Hooker in Total Recall. Yeah, you had to have it.
That's true.
Where was it? I'm just looking back here. The shirtless beach football montage had to be shot twice because Tom Cruise did not find the first version good enough.
Sexy
The,
enough.
the reshoot placed additional pressure on the actors to get their ripped bodies back to reshoot the scene.
Oh no.
Cast members Glenn Powell recounted, "We shot it, and that night we all went out for milkshakes and tater tots,
Oh God, no.
just like Splurge, and everybody grabbed a beer. And a week later, Tom's like, we got to shoot it again. It wasn't good enough. We're going to shoot it again." And then everybody's back in the gym again, day and night. The sequence is being used very heavily to promote the movie after a similar scene in the original film because the iconic and audience favorite.
No.
I'm picturing the reshoots. I'm picturing Tom behind the camera doing like the Austin Powers with when he's behind the camera. Yes, no. You know, I'm picturing that sort of thing. More hair whipping.
I mean, if anything makes you not want to ever be an actor, or rather never want to do what it takes to, you know, be an actor of that ilk, you know, like that's just an instant no for me to like imagine what it takes to do that. I'm always having these discussions with my wife, you know, because we're talking about like gender roles in cinema, and she's like, well, women have it really tough, and you know, all the pressure of this place. I'm like, yeah, but when you're a dude and you have to eat like blended chicken, you know, and you have to like consume 6 pounds of blended chicken every day and work out for 6 hours, 7 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's no picnic either, by the way. And you never achieve that kind of level. It's just so crazy, right? And that's another thing. Just like to think that that's a standard for guys to sort of achieve. It's like, yeah, no, I don't think so.
Well, this is interesting. I didn't realize it. And there's two pieces of trivia here that kind of blend together. The distributor Paramount Pictures wanted to debut the film on Paramount Plus streaming channel after COVID-19 hit, right? However, star Tom Cruise is one of the producers and refused to give in to the studio pressure, insisting the film have a theatrical release.
Yeah.
The gamble paid off as it's now become his highest grossing film. And then at top, this is the second film since COVID-19 pandemic that has grossed over $1 billion worldwide.
What's the other one?
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Spider-Man.
That one's knocking on 2 billion.
1.9 right now.
I saw that movie. I barely remember what happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, by comparison speaking, you know, it's just, to me, I guess, I'm getting wagged at. I'm getting finger wagged by Jason.
Go ahead, Jason. I've muted your mic. You can say all the bad words you want right now. It's all good. Yep, there we go.
Oh, that's classic.
We have a little bit of love for Spidey.
That's okay. I do too. I just, I mean, like there are parts of it. Like, who directed that one? Who directed No Way Home?
John Watts. No, Sam Raimi.
No.
Oh, it is Sam Raimi.
No, it was
Yes,
John
it was
Watts.
Sam Raimi.
Yeah,
It was
Sam
Raimi.
Raimi did Doctor Strange. Sorry.
Yeah, Sam Raimi was the multiverse one, right?
Yeah. John Watts did the whole trilogy with Tom Holland.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
To me, like what I love about, and this is what I sort of loved about the revival of like things like Ragnarok and some of the you know, some of the more colorful kind of like like the Raimi stuff always felt like he's got this element of fun to me. Or like Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Like that's to me what I go to see a movie from. And I found like a lot of these things are just a little bit too hand-wringing for me and a bit too like and not to throw shade at a specific movie, but like I really like the Raimi stuff because he's such a very visually striking director who does things in a really particular way, and I just like the way he, you know, makes those movies. So for me, I don't know, it's you start to get particular about these things because we're getting so much of it, right? Like if these movies, when you would have this big tentpole blockbuster, incredible action sequences, CGI, blah, 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 it would be few and far between. They were so expensive to make and so difficult to make. Now they're so much easier to make, and we get so many of them on all these different channels. I guess I'm getting a little bit jaded where I'm like, I really want the story to be there. I really want like something to be different. And I guess that's why, you know, for me, Maverick hits so hard because the story is really strong. The writing is really good. The acting is great. And the action is just phenomenal.
Well, I find we talked about Thor Love and Thunder a bit before, and the reason it's not as good as Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And my honest thought is with Ragnarok, with Guardians, with this film, they built a serious movie and had the humor reflect the serious movie.
Yeah.
Whereas Love and Thunder seem to write certain aspects of it just to get to the joke.
Yeah.
Like the whole beginning with Thor saving these people so he could save their temple. Well, that was just all for the payoff of him trashing their temple. and it's like, no, you need the serious movie with the comedy added.
I feel like they wrote the serious fun adventure, and then had one of the best, most badass villain stories, and just shoved it in, just made it fit. Like they had to whack corners off of it to jam it in there, and it made for almost, I think the word is disjointed. It's kind of how it feels at times, because it goes from really, really silly to some really cool badass stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the problems that I haven't seen the film yet, so I can't really comment too much. But certainly, the trailer made me feel like what you're talking about. Like, this doesn't make sense. Feels uneven just in the trailer. But I have to say, like, I was the only thing that makes me want to see it is Christian Bale. Like, I mean, he just looks utterly terrifying.
He's phenomenal. He damn near steals the movie. Like, he is a great villain, one of the best Marvel villains, and has one of the best stories.
Yeah.
One of the other little trivias I was just watching, and it was one of the coolest parts of the film, is when Tom's taking up the Dark Star and Ed Harris gets out of the car and he's standing there. It flies over his head and you see that roof lift off.
Yeah.
That was not planned.
Yeah.
But they didn't have time to do a second shoot, so they left it.
No, it's not that they didn't have time. They broke the set. That's the set coming apart. Like that whole thing was not a real guard tower. They built that. That's the set. And the planks over at such force, it blew the thing to bits. So that was the take they had to use, because they couldn't rebuild the set.
It's a one and done. We only get one shot at this.
If you look on YouTube, you can see the replay of it, and you just watch it in slow-mo, and it just literally, the whole roof just completely just lifts off and goes away.
Miles Teller was on set that day just to watch it, to make sure that everybody knew I didn't do it.
It wasn't me.
I love how Harris just doesn't even move, though. He like absolutely doesn't.
Oh yeah, he so sold that. That was perfect. And I guess Jennifer Connelly hates flying, so Tom Cruise had to help her because of that final shot. That's actually his plane that they used.
Yeah.
No surprise.
She was on Valley and the whole time. She's like, I like this. It's fun. It's fun.
And if you think about it, you'd only see her in the bar. You never see her really in anything else.
Yeah.
I don't care. Just let me see her, because it still looks so amazing.
Yeah.
No kidding. That's where it's hard, because you're watching this film and you're going, look, we're watching 55, 60-year-old people making out on screen, and it's a romantic moment. It's like, when I was in my 20s, I never would have watched something like that.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. I think it's really nice. It's a movie for the rest of them.
A lot of us have trouble accepting that actors in Hollywood get old too. Like, they age with us,
Do they, though?
Some of them. You're right. Look at Tom Cruise. You're right.
Yeah,
Rob Lowe. I can never remember his name, but he played Hamilton Porter in Sandlot, the chubby redhead kid. He hasn't aged. He still looks exactly the same. Like, Patrick something is his name. I can't think of his last name. But he's another one that just hasn't aged. He looks exactly the same as he did 30 years ago.
Jeez. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Okay.
That's true.
One more piece of trivia that I find actually interesting. The only pilot to crash during training was Phoenix.
Wait. Right. Okay, yeah. Not for real, obviously.
Yeah. But it's named after a mythical bird that rises from the ashes, and then she proceeded to fly in the final mission.
Oh,
right.
But wait, shadowing named herself, or else that would be a really bizarre coincidence.
Oh yeah, she did name herself too. That's right.
Yeah, interesting. She had to have named herself based on that piece of the script.
She must have known. Yeah.
Maybe.
But it's funny. I mean, the actors that I know, the one thing I find really strange about acting on film is, like, when you show up for an audition, you get signed. You don't know what the film is about. Barely know what's going on in your scene.
Yes, your sides tell you nothing.
It's such a disservice to actors. That's one thing I really dislike about the industry. Is like, why not give people a chance to like succeed, as opposed to giving them no information. Then they're just going, well, okay, I'll play it like this. And they go, that's totally wrong. That's not what the character would do. It's like, yeah, well, I don't know anything about the damn character because you don't tell me anything. So like, it'd be really interesting if she was like, maybe they did get a chance to read the entire script and know what was going on, but yeah.
And I just read another little thing. I didn't catch this when Hangman at the beginning in the bar enters the song.
Yeah.
You guys realize what number he pushes?
No.
86.
Oh,
For the year Top
Nice.
Gun came out.
Right. That's a deep cut.
Right? You had to really be paying attention. I was not. I only know because I read it.
That's who all the original fans of the movie who are also autistic. And if I caught that, I absolutely know that's
definitely 86. Definitely. All right, Adrian, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was super fun.
I'm gonna tease Benner later because he was not here, and I just realized we were not on Facebook for some reason. It disconnected, so that's why we didn't get as many comments. So I am actually, as soon as this is done, I'm going to set it to go live so it'll replay it on Facebook for everybody.
Yeah, Greg will be just on there like, why isn't anybody responding to me?
Exactly. This would be fun.
can you slip a banner on there pre-recorded?
Oh, I don't know if I can.
Post recorded after the fact.
Exactly. I'll try. But again, Adrian, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having
Thank you
me.
again, sir. Thank
Anytime you want to come back and chat movies, you just let us know.
Sounds good.
But for another week at the Movie Madhouse, I'm Rob.
I'm James.
Jason.
I'm still in my life.
Yes. We played the Ralph Garman bumper at the beginning.
Enough said.
We'll see you all later.
I said shut up! It's a man!